All right, guys, we got like another separate video for this one. This is just dedicated straight to government. We're just gonna let this video kind of ride out on its own.
We have a lot that we want to talk about and a lot of frustration that we didn't realize we had. In fact, actually, this is a cut segment from the original July update video. After the budget, somehow we just got on a massive rant and tangent about government officials, government employees, government systems, and the failings that they cause. And so we didn't want to cut it out. We wanted to keep it because we felt like it's valuable insight.
But the other video was way too long.
Yeah, so this is just a separate video. Consider this a bonus video, and I'll go ahead and let it start playing now. We'll see you guys. We'll be debt free in 2025.
That's right, baby.
December.
That's right.
Of 2025.
Yeah. That seems a little optimistic. Let's push it back a little further. Let's go even more in depth. Let's do more remodels. You love remodeling.
We haven't finished a single thing.
No. That one that's basically done. That's 124.
We're not the ones doing it.
But we showed the guy how to do most of it.
You know, maybe it's my fault. I don't have the right to bitch about county's incompetence when I myself am too incompetent to get these remodels done.
To be fair, we could have gotten them done if it wasn't for county half the time.
That is true.
They have delayed us so intently. It is nuts. Especially the electric disaster that happened over 136. The fact that it took a little over 2 months for that to finally get resolved is insane to me.
Dude, like, and that's the thing. I understand that the power line, first of all, actually, I don't. I don't understand this, because the thing is that if you look at it and you clearly see the power line is going to run over top of the house to make it at this location based off its previous design, but you know that the power company could offer a pole, you know what you should do as an inspector? You should literally call the person, be like, hey, technically everything's good, everything's fine, but you do realize that they're not going to run this power line over top of the house. We would be like, oh, thank you, government inspector, for letting us know about that. I kind of thought the same thing, but I wasn't sure. Thanks for giving us the heads up. We'll tell the electrician to do it differently then. Okay, not a problem. Just wanted to let you know, by my books, everything's technically fine, but you're going to run into this issue. What am I paying for? That's the thing that Derek and I get so antsy about county and inspections. What the hell am I paying for except to be delayed?
You know the other hilarious thing that that you brought up to me that I didn't think about at the time, but we obviously went through with it because it's in our best interest, is that when I was arguing for the refund for the lack of burying the line and all that stuff for 136, and we renegotiated out to the 1,500. As you guys remember, if you were paying attention in the video earlier, and once again he pointed this out to me, is that it would have been cheaper for the electricians to just pay the electric company to put the pole up for 1,200 and not have to move remember, they wouldn't have had to come back out, pay the guys to do the work, and then put another pole in there, because remember, there's a new pole in there for whatever reason. They would have just paid, instead of their guys to come out and redo all the work and labor and stuff, and plus give us a refund, they would have just paid the electric company to put out the pole, and it would have been way cheaper. Because I'm
just done. It's done. Literally.
That's a $300 difference just because of what they paid us. And then I will say another $200 in labor.
And the thing is, this wasn't like some cheeky, breaky, sneaky shit. Derek told them that's an option.
Yeah, I did. So
he literally, when we called them, like, look, you guys are either moving the pole, or you're going to pay 1,200 to sit there and put in a new pole for the electric company to do it.
And they said they were going to move it. And then that's when we argued the refund after. But
they did.
Technically would have saved money and got it done
they
faster.
Did way more work. Anyway, whatever. These are the people you're supposed to be putting your trust in. And the thing that annoys Derek and I about this entire process is we always talk about this. We're investors. Now, right now, it's getting tight. Real tight. But from our personal incomes and stuff like that, we can afford to sit on these losses.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, Godspeed to the average everyday man that just, it's for his personal house that has to deal with this bullshit. It's so unfair. And the thing is that you can only blame the employee so much before you have to blame the system as a whole. In this instance, I can easily blame the employee. He should have clearly known the codes. You can't run a power line over top of the roof. that is 100% their fault and they're failing because we hired somebody to do the work. They should have bitched that. The inspector should have called them and bitched them. I'd be like, no, you're not doing this. But they did. So I can't blame the inspector on this because this actually is the system in the code. But the system itself is flawed from the get-go. It's all flawed. None of them know what they're doing. You can call and speak to 4 different people at this entire like Anderson County building and code system and get 4 different answers and somehow none of them are right. It's truly impressive. There needs to be some form of accountability. There needs to be some form of like checks and balance.
Yeah, somebody to be
like
a
I
third
should
party.
be I should be able to call in another county's inspector to then literally overrule them or whatever else.
And actually, it's not even just us complaining about the county. I want to clarify this very specifically. So we're in another group on Facebook.
Oh yeah, the investor group recently
Yeah.
has been bitching about all the counties.
And we didn't mention anything to them. We never bitched about any of this to anybody. We've just been dealing with it to ourselves.
Well, I guess we talk about it in our videos, but yeah, that's about it.
I doubt any of. I mean,
none of the investor guys are probably watching.
I doubt it, but they may. Anyway, the point is that either way, we haven't made it vocal to anybody that we've known of directly. And out of the blue, this one guy in particular, which we've met a few times, and he's more of a developer, not so much like what we do investing and just kind of sit on things. He straight up just like does like, you know,
the fix and flip.
I'll buy out some land, build up like a neighborhood, sell the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like more in the development. And he went through and wrote out an entire list of every county that he's been dealing with for the past year and a half or so, and all the problems that are basically specific to those counties, and why he hates working with those particular counties, to give everybody a forewarning of what to expect if they plan on investing in those areas. And literally, out of the like 10 counties he named, one was decently good. He was like, yeah, I actually have no problems with this. The other 9 were like varying levels of getting worse and bad. And ironically enough, he said Anderson County was the same crap we had to deal with, which is unnecessary fees, and they fail you on stupid shit. And he was like, I'm going nuts on Anderson County. I'm like, oh, we're not alone.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, so good.
And the
good
other
to
thing
know.
is too, is like in the comments section as well, all these other investors like, dude, I'm sick of it.
There was like 70 comments in this, including my own agreeing with it. There was like 70 comments in here being like, yeah, I had to deal with this. Yeah, I totally agree. This is BS too. This guy's an idiot. Blah, blah, blah. It was just all
They know inspectors by names because they're so fed up
Well,
with
we
them.
also know ours by name too.
And the thing is that, dude, here's the thing, and this is what I don't think most cities understand. I think Greenville County is the only one that does this right. Clear lines of communication, 24/7 access to whatever it is that you're looking for, not by permit number, but by the damn address. Because the thing of permits is they're supposed to be public record. That's the point of permits. So anybody looking to get into this literally can get access to anything and everything that had been done
It doesn't
recently.
make any sense why you don't just look up the address and just see all the history on the house.
What investor or what homeowner that's buying the house has the permit numbers on hand?
Nobody has.
Get over yourself. So clear lines of communication. I'm sorry. I genuinely believe whoever because the inspectors like split up within like certain regions, obviously within the county.
Yeah, they like subdivide
Whoever
out the
my
county.
inspector is, I better have a damn clear direct line of communication with him from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night, like PM, 5 p.m. at any time, to sit there and call him directly and be like, hey, what's the issue? Okay, got it. I can sit there and I can handle it. Or at least online access to what those issues are. There's nothing.
Zero communication with the inspector, and the inspector also has limited to no communication with the front office.
Oh God.
Such a clusterfuck. It is insanely inefficient. And
Inefficient doesn't even start to describe it, because inefficient would assume that it does trudge along. It barely. You have to force it. Derek, this pisses us off. Every time we've ever had to call to pull permits or get an answer about something, Derek would call. They would sit there and they would say that they reach back out. Derek would literally tell the dude that he's talking to, you have never reached back out to
ever.
me.
Not once.
Never.
We've pulled
You
like
have
10
never-
permits. They've never.
You have never
ever
reached out
followed
to
up.
me. Can you get this person on the phone? They sit there, they say they'll reach back out. Derek hangs up, puts a timer on his phone. 15 minutes later, picks up the phone, calls again, gets a different person, does the same thing. Tells them, you're never going to reach out to me. Hangs up. 15 minutes later, calls them again. Finally, can get transferred over to the person or whatnot. And then it goes to voicemail. Put the timer on his phone. 15 minutes. Picks up the phone again. Derek and I waited.
And the worst part is, when I finally do get to a person, like the actual person I need, oh, they're like, yeah, I can knock this out in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst part.
So I had to do that 15-minute interval like 5 times just for them to be like, oh, yeah, we can knock this out real quick. Just stay on the phone. I'll go ahead and email it to you. And I'm like, why couldn't you have done that without me having to intervene?
They sit there to like, oh yeah, let me pull up the notes on this. Okay, so here's what I need you to do. Okay, do you mean this? Do you mean this?
Yeah.
No, I need you guys to do this because if you remember, there's like this little section here. It's a problem. Okay, cool, done.
Literally,
the fact that you have to keep picking up the damn phone and calling every 15 minutes because the incompetence of this goddamn system that you don't have your when you file a permit, you should, with your permit, not only get a receipt, but your inspector's direct line so you could directly talk to the dude. And I'm sorry, if you as an inspector don't like the idea of a person having your direct line to talk to you, quit your fucking job. Get the hell out of public service now. You are a public servant. If you don't like serving the public, get the hell out.
No, what he means is that when you try to follow up with the actual inspector, you have to get them, at least in Anderson County, in very specific windows. You must get them at between 8 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. They are not in the office for the rest of the day, and there is no way to communicate to them. Because the only thing that happens is when you call the office, they just forward you over to their voicemail so you can leave a voicemail so that when either one of those new time windows come up, they'll listen to the voicemail and maybe get back to you if they have time, depending on how many voicemails they got, or they might cycle you into the next day. And it is an insanely inefficient process. And on top of that, this is the best part. Every time I've gotten a hold of the inspector, now once again, the inspectors, I don't really have too much of an issue with sometimes. They usually are okay with what they do. The problem is that unless when you talk with them super early in the morning, I'm talking like 7:40 in the morning sometimes. One time I got called 7:10. Whenever you do talk to them in the morning, they don't know what house you're talking about because they had to physically have the permit number to be able to pull up their own notes to see what the hell they did. Because I don't know if they do a lot of houses. I don't know if they just short-term memory or this particular guy doesn't know. I don't know. All I know is every single time I mention to him, hey, here's why I'm calling, here's my house number, here's my name, can you explain to me this particular thing? And they're like, hey, you called me, you left me a voicemail, I need your permit number so I can tell you what I said. And then he just reads off what he wrote in his notes. And I'm like, I don't need you to tell me what's in your notes. I can read the notes. I need you to tell me why you gave me those notes. And half the time they're like, I'll have to re-inspect and tell you. And I'm like, then why didn't you write more detailed notes so you don't have to go back out there and waste your own time? This is a super... And then the worst part of it all, I don't even need to talk to the inspector half the time because a lot of times the information I need is a very specific, quick question that if they would have just wrote it in their notes, that when I call the office, they could just be like, oh, this is specifically why it failed for this one particular reason. That if they would have just wrote it down, this in the particular is why it failed. When I call the office, they can tell me, I can get it fixed, get it re-inspected, get it done. Not have to keep bogging down their phone lines to find out what is wrong and get a hold of the dude at the very specific intervals in time to tell me what is wrong. He not know either, potentially to re-inspect it anyways, then to call and tell me what's wrong, and then finally get it resolved and then get it re-inspected to get it approved. While making numerous phone calls in this entire process. It is, to explain to you how inefficient it is truly like watching a train wreck. You are literally seeing the car that is broken down and every freaking car hit it because you are making calls and you are seeing nothing getting done and your time getting wasted, and it is insane. And then they charge you more money every time, and it takes months to get anything done efficiently. It's insane how inefficient it is.
Until Anderson County's building
and apparently,
codes.
Sorry to interrupt, apparently Anderson County is one of the more efficient ones.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that terrified us. Like from like some of the comments we saw that Spartanburg's even worse.
Spartanburg's apparently they're on fire.
And you know what? It makes sense.
Easily, there's apparently one inspector for the entire city. Which, by the way, it's not a massive city, but it's big enough to be more than one inspector.
Oh yeah, well, don't forget too. Like their solution, because they only have one inspector, is that they literally put a memorandum. This is the stupid shit governments do. They put a memorandum to stop all building, and they're looking to extend it into November.
Yep.
This is the stupid shit.
Because instead of them hiring a new dude and training them, they're just like, yeah, you just can't do anything, so that way we can catch up.
Yeah, because we're too overburdened, so nobody could do anything. What?
Yeah. It is
Are you stupid?
insane how the system is right now.
And like, that's the thing is like, yeah, like we bitch a lot about Anderson County because there's a lot of room for improvement. And the thing is that I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think it's an inefficient system. It's people who clearly don't want to serve the general public or actually be actively involved in it. And
I think it's people that just never had to deal with their own system.
yeah, they've never had to deal with their own system. And that's the thing that really gets me. These people should have had to have dealt with this inefficient shit system. Like, before you're allowed to be hired on as a building and codes inspector, you should have sat there and had to have pulled at least 4 permits under your personal name and dealt with this system. So that way you can go in and do it better. And they don't. They literally don't. And the thing is, it's funny. You can see the cities that are being run more efficiently prospering more efficiently.
Physically see it.
Again, Spartanburg County was considered the worst. And I can personally, for first-hand experience, after being in Spartanburg County courts and seeing that they don't even follow protocol in courts. Dead ass. They do not follow protocol in courts. So the fact that their courts don't work and only tell me what their building and codes are, why do you think half the city's for sale? Why do you think the city and like the entire county is starting to tank? Why do you think people are leaving in mass growth? Why do you think it's condemned out the ass? Why do you think the crime rate
it's literally joked in South Carolina? It's called Murderburg.
Yeah.
Because there's so much homicide there.
Dude, it's so...
And it's literally like the 4th largest... I'm trying to say county. It's the 4th largest county in South Carolina.
And it's the biggest disgrace.
It's a joke.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, what did you expect? Look at Greenville. Greenville has their shit together, man. When you get a permit on Greenville, you look it up by the address, they pull it all up. You can do it all online. The inspector notes are right there for you 24/7, right there for you, available online. They'll send you email notifications once the inspection's been done and the reports have been uploaded, so you can be the first one to view them and everything else like that.
Problem too. Everything is via the door. They put paper on your door,
which
hoping you eventually see it.
That paper, like, I'm telling you right now, that is the dumbest system on the damn planet.
They don't mail it to your house or what's on file for the address. They don't call you ever. And then sometimes...
You know, actually, that's another good thing. That pisses me off. And it is inexcusable. You have a cell phone. When you are physically out there at the property, even if you only call one time, when you are physically out there, the inspector should be required to call the number on file the one time to just be like, hey, I'm here. I've looked around. Here's what needs to be done. Do you have any questions? Answer any and all questions. Be like, okay, I'll add that to the notes and then pin the note onto the door and bounce out.
I can't tell you how many times. It's gotten a little better lately, but I can't tell you how many times in the first few permits we had to pull where they would tell me at the office that they don't have the notes on file and that I need to go physically to the premises and look at the inspection notes.
You go physically to the premise, there's no fucking inspection notes.
And there was never an inspection.
And then when you call again, somebody else pulls the file. It's like, oh yeah, I have them right here.
That must have happened. I swear to God, we're not making this up. That must have happened at least 4 or 5 times. And then once again, they were never even posting the permits to the door. In fact, we didn't finally start getting permits attached to the door until the electrician was the one that pulled the permits to get the power poles put on.
Oh yeah.
Every permit, including the one we just got for 134, did not have the permit put to the door.
Oh yeah, that's true. Actually, that is so funny.
We have never, to this day, when we pull a permit, ever gotten a permit attached to our door. It's only been the 2 times the electrician did it.
I understand that. I understand that 134 got approved, but you know what you can do then? Pick up the damn phone, call, hey, I just want to let you know, I already inspected 134. It's approved. It's good. Would you like me to put a permit on the door or anything else like that? Yes or no? Okay. And even if it's approved, just post the damn shit on the door.
Why isn't it posted with a permit and then followed up with a note saying approved?
I know. Just something simple.
They never do that. Or put up the permit like they're supposed to and then put up the notes why it wasn't approved. It's the same process. You're there to put the paper up, just put both up.
Again, the biggest thing is, you know, the reason nobody wants to work with the county, you know, the reason nobody gives a shit about the like building and codes as a whole, you know, the whole reason everybody's skirting by it in every way, shape, or form. And I'm telling you, everyone is, whether it's homeowners, investors,
oh yeah,
major businesses. We're sick and tired of all dealing with this shit. And the reason that we're all sick and tired of it is because it's inexcusable that when I call, I get 4 different answers on the same damn question. And when I cite building and code law, nobody knows what the damn law is. You know, some counties, the really good, prospering, growing counties, you know what they have? It's genius. They don't let you go to the building and codes officers. They make you go to a liaison that literally knows all the building and codes. You talk with them, you tell them what you're trying to do, and they literally help you get up to code before you ever even send an inspector out there. And you can be 100% honest, they literally are separate from the building and codes office, but they know everything about it and can tell you exactly what to do. So like, let's say you say like, hey, I want to sit there and I want to build an RV park. What do I need? They're like, okay, here's exactly what you need to do. You need to do this, but be careful, word it like this. Don't say it like this. Otherwise it's going to create an issue for us. Like, make sure you word it like this or do this or whatever. Oh, okay. And the thing is, usually those counties with a liaison, so much shit gets done so much quicker. The inspectors don't have to worry. Half the time they go out there, it's instant approvals. It's already done. Everything's already taken care of for them, and they can move on. Because here's the thing. If anybody here is a building and codes enforcer and you're watching this video, let me make something very clear about your job. You are nothing more than a government liability checkbox.
100%
You are just checking boxes to make sure that the county and the government can't be held liable for some retard doing something dumb. Don't think yourself any more. Don't think yourself any less. You are literally the robot checking off the box, and that's fine. There needs to be somebody to obviously physically do that and like obviously handle that.
Yeah, because otherwise we'd be dealing with the wild, wild west.
Oh yeah,
doing under the table and everybody be.
Where people are sitting there and putting studs that are like, I don't know, 30 inches apart or some insane stupid money. Shit like that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They serve a purpose.
Yeah, you have a purpose, and I understand that. But the thing is that I feel like most of these inspectors have an overinflated ego, thinking they're more important than they really are. Let me make something very clear to you. I'll just go somewhere else. It's that simple.
Well, that's unfortunately what's happening.
That's exactly what happens. That's why there's so many abandoned houses all over the damn place. There's so many of these houses that are being squatted in, and eventually, it's not a fast process. Eventually, over time, you remember how I talked about meth being a bunch of cockroaches that eat away at everything and spread out? That's exactly what happens. Don't believe me? Look at San Francisco. Look at Spartanburg with all their condemned houses. You can drive down the lower parts of Spartanburg, the lower income areas, and you can't drive down a street without seeing at least 5 condemned signs. That's not bringing the county any money. No. That's not benefiting anybody. That's hurting the school system, the police, the fire department, the court system. Nobody's making money. And guess what? Nobody wants to invest. You know why? Because you're not making it easy to invest.
And then the worst part of it all, too, is where the big money is, the ones that really kind of bring all the attraction, the jobs, and the attention. When you go downtown and you start seeing left and right and across the street and every other block, you start seeing giant like office spaces or restaurants or whatever, all for sale.
No, what's terrifying is not that. It's when I see banks have for sale signs on properties. That means that they literally, the person said, I'm not paying it, got out. The bank foreclosed. The bank literally could not get an auction at the foreclosure on that property and is then sitting there having to sell it. Yeah. Dude, that's a problem. Or that's a major problem.
Or like other counties, like Union County, where the banks are just straight up leaving.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Wells Fargo, where they just straight up said, no, we're done. They're like the one bank in the county was like, no, we're not going to stay.
I forgot about Union County. Union County
is truly...
Union County is truly corrupt.
It's small, so it's not a big deal. Everybody can ignore it. But man, that is probably the worst county we've ever interacted with in our life. They are corrupt as hell.
I watched Union County, according to code, by the way.
Because they get money off their condemnation.
Yeah, they get money. Every condemnation that they do and then they bulldoze, they literally get state and federal funding to condemn and tear down houses.
And they're running buck wild, condemning every house they can find for any reason.
There was a house that we were looking at to buy. It was technically 5 houses on this one lot. And it was grandfathered in and everything else like that. We went down to Union County to talk with them about trying to like get permits and see what we would have to do before we bought this. This was like research. Dude, they already said it was condemned, that the hearing was already over, and that it's scheduled for demolition. And that we would have to appeal the demolition. And we're like, okay, but how do we get it back up and running? Because I was like, as we looked at these houses, dude, some of our mobile homes were worse than these houses. We're like, why are they condemned?
Yeah, they were in pretty nice shape.
Like, we're talking it was just down to the studs. It just didn't have drywall up inside. It had all the windows and doors were there. Everything was in place. They didn't even have a leaking roof.
Some of them had brand new roofs. Like, they were like kind of like duplex style homes, but had like recently been renovated like within the last 5 to 10 years. And they were just sitting there vacant. And they were just not allowed to be worked
There
on.
wasn't even a condemnation notice on it. Nothing. Like, when you're condemning something, you have to put up an actual physical hard notice. There was nothing. And like, when we saw that, we were terrified. Then we started looking into it and started like driving around.
Well, what caught us was all the condemnation notices as we were driving around. We're like, what?
There was a beautiful,
oh my God, immaculate.
We were talking 6-bedroom, 4-bath, like beautiful brick home that looked immaculate.
It was a little
on the
mini
outside.
mansion.
It was a little mini mansion. We're talking like maybe 2 miles from like where the office was, and it had a condemnation notice on it. And we're like,
how?
What?
There was nothing wrong. The grass was cut back, so it wasn't like it was overgrown, looking vacant. There wasn't like a giant roof leak where water was coming in, so it looked like nobody was living there. It wasn't like busted windows or anything. It just looked like a home that somebody was on vacation. Dead ass. It looked perfect.
And then
maintained.
The kicker of Union County, man. They are trying to implement. They're truly trying to destroy that city. Like, it's not even an if or like misguidance or incompetence. It's actual total destruction of that city is what they're doing, whether they realize it or not. Because now they try to implement a new tax. So not only do you have to pay property tax.
Oh, it's not implement. They're not trying to. They already did.
They did. I'm sorry.
It's already in place.
Not only do you have to pay property tax, not only do you then have to pay city property tax, which is unheard of, that you have to pay the county and the city. Whatever.
Yeah, usually it's just wrapped in the city fee.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
Tax.
But now, if you are a landlord, you have to pay a percentage of your rental amount on top of all the other taxes.
Yes. So if you, I don't remember the exact percentage. What? We have a guy who we know that has a bunch of properties in Union. He was the one that mentioned this to us. If you have more than 2 properties, right? So you're allowed to have one and it basically like a second like vacation home. The moment you get a third and you go 3 and on, you must pay a percentage of not just 3 and on, but of every single one of them. Percentage of the gross, not profit, the gross that it brings in. So if it brought in like, I don't know, we'll say everyone's over $1,000 a month for easy math, $12,000, and you got to pay like 5% of that. That's $600 every single house you must pay. Every single one. And wait. You got to pay for that license too. In order for you to be able to pay the fee, you have to pay for the business license to be able to even pay that fee.
That's right. I forgot about that.
It was like $125, but it's still nuts. We're like, wait, you got to pay for the license and then you got to pay for the tax? And he's like, yes. He's like, I pay county property tax, city property tax. I have to pay for that license every year. It's $125 for the license plus a renewal fee. The $125 was the initial fee, and then it was like I think $80 or something to renew it. And then it was whatever percentage. I don't know. I don't think it was 5, but I think it was 2 or something like that per house.
Here's the thing. Every investor has this.
Nuts.
Whether counties, governments, whatever else want to admit it or not. Investors talk to each other. Investors carefully pick where they're investing in. And when your counties are run like shit, investors want nothing to do with it. I refuse to invest in Union County. I refuse to.
you also got to look at the big money. Even if you're not talking to the investors, you can see what other people who have money are investing in. And so, a prime example: if Wells Fargo, the only bank that was basically in Union besides South State, which is a regional bank, the only major corporate bank that didn't stay there decided to bounce out, there was a problem.
Yes.
Right. Then on top of that, you don't have any of the other amenities that you would see in every other city that people would generally want to have at least one of, like a Starbucks, for example,
Walmart.
a Walmart. Like when you're missing the like societal essentials at this point, I don't want to say a company's an essential, but it basically is to have like a decent running city. If you don't have like the basics, like you have like just basically the Dollar Generals, which is like the lower, like everybody just kind of has them anyways because it's just some cheap thing for poor societies to live off of. But when you don't have like the stepping stones of companies in the area, that's when you got a problem. Because especially if you did have them and they're leaving, or they're just straight up not investing, that's a telltale sign. Because you got to remember, they do market research too, and their market research is substantially better than your market research.
Oh yeah.
And there's a reason they didn't go there.
And that's the thing is like, I just like, it's funny. As much as I bitch about Anderson County, like I just think that honestly, the biggest issue I have with Anderson County, truthfully, their building and codes office just needs a complete and total overhaul. I don't know how their development standards is or like their building and planning and whatnot, but
Their
like,
treasury needs an overhaul too. They screw up on the taxes.
that is true. They do. They screw up with the taxes quite a lot.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like it's not a bad place to live. But the thing is
The
that
DMV is good though.
What's that?
The DMV.
Oh
man.
yeah, the DMV is surprisingly
Surprisingly,
very
their
good.
DMV is legit. Every other DMV I dealt with is horrible. The Anderson County DMV, pretty smooth.
Yeah, but the thing is like, dude, the reason you bitch about these kinds of things and you really look at it from a critical level is because, believe it or not, you're one step away from becoming like Union or becoming like Spartanburg. And most people, they won't see the effect, the negative issues or the negative problems for years. It's a slow rot, man. Like government rot and bad government ran offices, you don't see the immediate impacts at first. It's a rot and it takes time to grow. But once it's fully formed and there, it's already too late because now you got to offer incentives to get people back in. Like, and it's insane to me that like our government is ran so incompetently in so many different areas because you would expect the people actually running it to know what the hell they're doing, but they don't. That's why it gets run like shit. They don't know what they're doing. And you can't really blame them because if nobody else is stepping up to the plate for it, someone's got to do it, whether it's being run incompetently or not. So, I don't know. I'm sick of it. As much as I'm sick of Anderson County, I do want to point out the even worse counties such as Spartanburg and Union. Union is by far the absolute corrupt worst county in the entire Spartanburg area.
There's a reason we're specifically in Anderson County. It's still manageable. We can deal with it. It is a pain in the ass. Don't get me wrong. But man, there are some real bad.
But a couple more slips and I'm fine with I'm out. Yeah. And that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, there's a point with every investor where you say you're out.
Yep.
The money be damned. The problems, I don't care. Let it get condemned. Let it sit there and get torn apart. I refuse to fund another dollar into this. And here's the thing. That benefits no one because it becomes more evicted, like desolate, unusable, worthless land. And guess what happens with that? That's how you get squatters and drugs. Because the thing is, druggies are like cockroaches. They tell their other druggie friends. And an abandoned mobile home park, that is keen druggie kingpin taking over. Yeah, they might not be able to get electric on, or they will get the water on, because you know what they do? They rip out the tap and just make it direct. They're not dumb. They're somewhat crafty. They'll jackhammer out the taps to sit there and get proper water on and stuff like that. So now the water company's
literally seen it.
Yes, I've literally seen people removing taps to get their water
just
on.
Literally connected to the direct line that
because
is the
county. The water company can't stop the water except from the line. Well, if they rip out the line and put in just their own ghetto line to get it working, who gives a shit?
And the hilarious thing is how is the county going to know? All they see is the water usage is being done, and they just think there's a leak somewhere in the line, somewhere in the entire system. They have no idea that a particular house is using it.
And listen, as much money as we can project and as much money as we see, there is a point of no return, even for the mobile home park, where
Sure.
Derek and I will just be like, no, I'm out. Take it.
Yeah, there's always somebody else who will buy it.
Yeah.
Always sell it.
Or if nobody wants to buy it, I'm not putting $1 into it. Do you want to play this game? Fine. I'm asking for assistance. You don't want to work with me? I'm out. And the thing is like it.
Even if we were to sell it, there's no guarantee that the next person is going to be willing to deal with it to fix it up. Because if they're not incentivized to fix it up, slumlording it, and then you get the exact same problem you're talking about, which is where you get all your drugs, which is exactly what we just rescued it from. Which means that we could just sell it to some other dude who's going to put it right back into that.
Oh yeah. And the thing is that like again, slow rot. There's some nice houses in that neighborhood. Not gonna be so nice when you got the elderly couple next door getting like robbed from some meth head that's now living in that park. Not gonna be so nice when your next door neighbors are sitting there and getting bricks thrown through their window and they can't prove who it is, or God forbid they get shot at because man, who gives a shit? It's a rundown park. Not gonna be so nice when you sit there and have all this trash everywhere. You're finding the owners. They don't give a shit. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, have some common sense. Like, usually, that's the thing that annoys us so much about this is that usually the people that are willing to go and get the permits. This is the funny thing. Okay, nothing was ever pulled in that park before we took it over.
Nothing.
And that's the funny thing to me.
You can look up the history of it. There's nothing.
We are getting punished for trying to do it right. So what incentivization do I have to continue trying to do it right when we are getting punished?
And we can tell you for a fact there was some things not done right from the previous people.
Oh,
such
yeah.
as the demolition of mobile homes that just magically disappeared before we wound up getting it. Some of the things that clearly weren't up to code when we took over. Yeah, there was quite a lot there that I have to question how the hell they were even put up to begin with.
And like, it's so funny to me.
And the living conditions of these houses that people were in before we started doing the remodels.
These laws, they don't benefit anybody the way that they're working. It's either the laws are flawed, the system's flawed, or the people are flawed. It's one or the other, okay? Somebody's taking the blame somewhere. And the thing is that I find it so interesting because I guarantee you, it will lead to ruin. It always does. Like, they can hate us, they can bitch about us, they can sit there and get pissy every time we walk in the door and we bitch them out or whatever else. We're potentially always willing to go to civil court or whatever else to try to figure out an issue one way or another. Or if it's not worth our time, hell, let it fall to ruin. Who gives a shit? Not my problem. You're the one that has to deal with all these ferried in deadbeats and everything else like that because they talk to each other and they congregate around. Look at how fast San Francisco turned from, well, someplace I don't personally politically agree with. It was a pretty place.
It was a prospering society.
It was a prospering society, and look how fast it turned because of all these people getting ferried in and nothing getting done about them.
The second highest homeless per capita right now.
Yeah.
I think it's second or third. They're
and
really
guess what?
high.
Businesses, they didn't sell. They literally like,
they're straight up just leaving.
I'm out.
They just giving the keys to the bank and saying, keep your mortgage, I'm gone.
Yeah. Think about how bad that is when you willingly, because if you don't know, you don't legally have to have somebody's consent to quit claim over something to them.
That's
you can
true.
quit claim something over to anybody without their consent or anything else. And it just gets filed with the county. It's now theirs and it's their problem. Guess what? That's exactly what businesses will do. If it's like golf course house, right? If the POA gets bad enough for us, I'm out. I'm not doing shit. If anything, I'm going to purposely try to make it worse on my way out the door. But I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, work with people or get god-awful results. And I understand there's unreasonable people. There always is. You're dealing with the general public. But
there's also bad apples in certain circumstances, too.
Yeah.
For example, not everybody in, like, for example, a code department might be trying to be a dickhead, but there is going to be that one that is causing a problem for everybody, and unfortunately, he gives a bad perception because one bad apple ruins the bunch. So there could be, like, for example, 4 code enforcers, and 3 of them are great. One's terrible, but the one terrible one's making the whole system look bad.
That's exactly right.
So we're not saying that necessarily it could just be a bad system per se. It could just be a couple bad apples. Maybe.
This is the thing that pisses me off. Every time we've ever physically gone there, we go to the front desk ladies.
There's two
front desk ladies. Yeah. They are always very nice. Yeah. They're very helpful. They immediately are calling the person that we're wanting to talk to. They're not giving us excuses. They're not giving us bullshit. And we usually are in and out in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's part. Great.
There is one particular front desk lady who goes above and beyond. She is wonderful. I mean, she is literally creme de la creme of government employee. I fucking love that woman.
Yeah.
Just like that one in the DMV too. We have like one at the county codes enforcement and one at the DMV. Both of them are just heavenly people. They're great at their job. But the problem is that they have to do so much extra just to make the system work that they literally have to be exceptional. Because everybody else that's just doing the minimum or doing just whatever is requested of them is causing this system to get bogged down to be such a disaster, or they're causing more problems along the way with miscommunications or inefficiencies or other issues that are popping up. So if they're doing the minimum at the front desk, and then this other person who's the inspector is doing the minimum, and then like maybe a supervisor is doing the minimum or some other crap, it just becomes a complete disaster. So you have to have the exceptional people to even make it work half the time anyways.
There's a principle called the Peter principle in like corporate hierarchies, and this is true in government as well. The Peter principle is basically when you're really good at your job, you get promoted until you start to suck at your job, and then you're forever there. So you end up with a system of people who got promoted into positions that they now suck ass at, and instead of getting demoted, they're just left there, not promoted any higher, but everyone is following the Peter principle.
There's also the problem of seniority, and that's one thing that's always an issue when it comes to companies, is that people assume that there's like an expectation that because you've been with a company for so long, you demand to have that promotion. But if you don't have the skill set or the ability to do that, it doesn't matter. You'll still get promoted just because you've been there long enough. When there's somebody that might have significantly more skills, that might be younger or just been with the company less time, and then they're now being overruled by somebody who literally doesn't know how to do the job, and so you get this massive problem of trickle down inefficiencies, and it's a routine problem, and government is very well known for this, where they will just have somebody get hired and they just keep getting promoted because they've just been with the government for however many years it's been. Doesn't matter if they know how to do the job or not, they just keep going up the ladder because it's just, well, you've been here for 20 years, here's the next promotion.
Oh yeah.
Until they eventually retire and then just live off that stuff.
Dude, if you are a government employee, I don't care, a judge, a police officer, a building, county, and codes enforcer, a tax collector, let me make something abundantly clear to you. You are not above the general public. You are below them. You are a public servant. Your job is to serve the general public by literal law. That is your job. Now, that obviously is not what happens, which is what creates this huge issue and these huge back and forths between the general public and their government and their governing bodies. Because government employees feel like they're entitled and they're above the general public, so they start playing by the rules for thee, not for me. Like anybody that's a building and codes inspector, I guarantee you, your house is not 100% up to code.
Oh, I'm very
I guarantee you I can find something looking exactly at the HUD codes. I can find something to nail you on. Doesn't look very good now, does it? And that's the problem. When you get that high and mighty attitude, or like you don't want to talk to people, because I'm sorry, when somebody calls you and asks you, hey, what's wrong? What's the problem? And you can't specifically define what the problem is, then there is no problem. That's how that works. You can't be arrested for something, and when you ask, hey, why am I being arrested? The police officer goes like, oh, I don't know yet. That's not how that works. You have to be able to specifically cite why that is happening. And the thing is that a lot of people don't understand this. And when they're in these jobs, they just see it as a quick, easy paycheck. And then they get to go home and not care about it until they work their 20, 25 years, get their little pension from the government or stipend or whatever else, and then get the hell out. No, dude. If you are not dedicated to serving, working, and protecting the general public, get out of the job. There's plenty of other jobs. You would be a much more effective burger flipper, making probably about the same amount of money. As crazy as that is.
Unfortunately, that is true.
Like, you'd be a much more
very
effective,
underpaid in government.
like, you'd be a much more effective burger flipper because at least you'll be bringing more joy to people. Because let me tell you, when I go to McDonald's and I get a damn good McDouble, I'm happy. Okay? Like, I know what I'm getting. I know what I want. And if the burger flipper did their job, they put a smile on my face. Great job. Versus sitting there and dealing with a government employee that doesn't want to serve the general public. That right there is such a pet peeve of mine that leads me on a warpath. That's why we like the front desk lady, because she genuinely seems to want to help. Whatever question, whatever problem, she's the only human being in that building that's ever followed up with us.
Literally the only one.
Well, we didn't even ask her to, because she forgot to mention something to us. We gave her our number. She reached out to us like, hey, by the way, I just want to let you know I forgot to mention this to you. That's a public servant. That's a damn good employee. That is the model. That's the person that needs to be shown like, hey, this is how you do this. But whatever. The
system is what it is right now.
Yeah, we have this broken system. And the thing is that they want, like, it's so funny because people wonder when government shakeups happen, when like new leaders get like elected or whatnot. Guess what? They're getting their advice from people like us. Like people that have gotten even better into investing, that own more money, that are supporting their campaign. They're getting their advice and their personal firsthand experiences from people like us and those investor groups and stuff like that. And guess what happens in government shakeups where all of a sudden people start getting laid off left and right? It wasn't random. It was by design and intent. Certain people get name dropped, and the next thing you know, they lose their damn job, as they should, because you're not wanting to serve the general public. Either serve or get out. And like now the system itself, obviously you only have so much control of it. Like, again, I'm sorry, every inspector has a cell phone. Use your damn phone and call people when you're out on inspections. That's no excuse, whether you get provided a phone or not. I'm pretty sure you get provided a phone. I'm like 90% sure.
Even if they don't, government gets cheap phones offered to them all the time.
Yeah.
They literally offer Obama phones.
Yeah. So call people. You know, when I was a salesman at Verizon and I worked at Verizon, you know what I gave people? I gave them my personal number so they could call me, so that way I could sit there and I could help them with any future issues or problems they have. Because I was a salesman, but I still had to serve. So if they don't give you your own private number, get over it. If you don't want people to have your personal number, get the hell out of the job. Guess what? That's actually what my manager told me when I started working at Verizon. He literally said the same thing. If you have a problem with people having your personal number, get the hell out. Quit. We don't want you here. That's exactly how you should be treated. Because the thing is that stand by what you're saying. And the thing is, if you don't know, just call, be honest. Be like, hey, I think there's something wrong here. I'm not 100% sure. Let me look into this and let me get back to you. That's a more respectable answer than pretending you know and talking out your ass. Like, you remember that one guy that showed up after the whole debacle? He was standing there like, you need plumbing permits, you need sewer permits, you need roofing permits, you need gas permits, and then, and only then, you might finally be able to get approved for your electrical. The dude didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. That unit got approved, got electrical, and got everything settled out in one permit. But that's the answers we get. And you wonder why we're so frustrated. And why we say, fuck it, it's not worth it.
Yeah, he's not kidding on that. Like, I forgot all about that one. Yeah, that guy literally was telling us we needed to get like 4 permits.
This was after we couldn't even get a hold of the guy that pulled all the permits and put a hold on it. He kept avoiding us.
And then we straight up didn't even deal with it. We just said owner finance it, gave it to some other dude, and they were like, oh, okay, we'll try pulling the permits. They pulled it, got it done within a week. We're like, well, what did you do? And they were like, oh yeah, we just did this and called them. We're like, oh, okay. So we copied the exact same thing that our tenant did at the time and did it to another one. We're like, oh yeah, that's a lot easier than doing what the hell this guy told us to do. And we've never had a problem since. Well, except for them never communicating. But their process that they wanted us to do made no sense.
Yeah, like, dude, stand by your shit. Like, our buddy, he's a police officer. He's a public servant. People now, they do some weird like call routing and they have their own phones and stuff like that. Guess what? When he's on the job and he's charging people with crimes, they have his number. They can call him. They can ask for evidence. Stand by your shit. If you want to fail somebody for something, you sit there and you stand by it. You're a public servant. And if you don't like it, get out. The public doesn't need you. Because if you're not willing to do that, you're not good for the community. And if you're not good for the community, you're a hindrance to not only the people trying to do the right thing, you're a hindrance to the entire society and the entire county for being a bad public servant. You're rot. You're filth. You need to be removed.
All right, well, that wraps up our long vented frustration dealing with government as of the last roughly year or so.
It's just, again, as we've talked about so much through this rant segment here, dude, it can be so much better.
Oh, it could.
It can be there are people that genuinely want to be in these styles of positions that are people pleasers and they want to work with the general public or whatnot. And the thing is there are people out there willing to do this. If you don't believe me, look at elementary school teachers. While it's not 100% a government organization, dude, that's a rough job for barely any pay. And there's a list of people ready to go and do that.
Elementary school ain't got nothing on middle school teachers.
Oh,
I don't know how you actively want to be a middle school teacher. I feel like that's like a demotion. That's like a punishment for you being a bad elementary school teacher or a bad high school teacher. It's that's their version of prison. It's okay, God, you made a mistake. You're a bad teacher. You're going to middle school to deal with the unruly evil.
And what if that's actually how the educational board
I'm not
deals
kidding.
with them?
I did ask them. It's what happens.
Oh, okay. You did XYZ against protocol? Well, looks like you're getting sent to Getty
There is
school.
No way. I'd have to sit and do a 60 minutes interview to actually delve into the mindset of somebody who said, I went to college, I got a degree, and I specifically wanted to do 7th grade math.
I'd have to see the resume.
Dude,
I would literally demand the resume and be like, you did not.
Yeah.
And then look at it. It's it literally says at the top of it, applying for 7th grade math.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
you're wrong. Oh. There's something mentally wrong with you. There's no way you're yeah, I totally want to deal with the most unruly, unforgiving, just irresponsible, angry populace that you literally have to deal with for half a year, every year, for the rest of your time teaching. It doesn't go away until you leave the job.
That is true.
You know what I'm saying? And the worst part is okay, this quickly on the teacher thing. So it's remember, you got to start with them as evil little bastards. Okay?
Yeah.
And then say you're a great teacher and you get them to be less unruly after 6 months or even maybe closer to the end of the year. They're all great. They're all happy and nice. The next class that comes in, you start all over again.
That is true.
It's not like you can take what you got from the last ones and feed the next one, make it easier. No. They're gone.
Yeah.
They yeeted themselves.
It's not like a character. It's you have to, every time as a middle school teacher, think of a video game, right? You get a character and they are trash and they half the time don't even listen to your commands, and you level them up and you finally get it and you get out of Act 1. And then that character disappears, and then you have to go back, grab another one, and go through Act 1 all over again.
The only thing that carries over is your experience in dealing with it. So you might get a little bit better, a little bit more efficient, but that's minimal in the grand scheme of how much you got to deal with it.
Teachers, and maybe this is true for government employees in general. I don't know. The best teachers, in my opinion, are the ones that are fresh out of college. They have innovative new ideas that they're wanting to try. And I feel like after about 10 years of teaching, again, please do not take this the wrong way. I feel like they should be retired because at that point, they're probably getting jaded. Because I remember I had a teacher that was very, very unorthodox. And and this was his second year teaching or whatnot. And he was a very fascinating teacher. I actually learned a lot from him. There was a lot of good stuff he had. But then the thing is, I've also had the teacher that's been teaching for 20 years. I'm like, dude, this guy is trash. He's actual garbage.
I want to counter you and say I agree for the most part, except the other end of the spectrum, the teachers that are on the ass end that are about to head out are also awesome. Because typically the ones that have been like teaching for like 30 years and they're already like, well, I don't care if they fire me because I'm still getting my government pension. And so they're literally like, I'm going to teach you what actually matters, not what's in this stupid book that you're never going to learn. You know what I'm talking about?
I guess that is true because they get tenure and then they can't get fired.
Yeah.
So they just ride it out till retirement.
There's a couple old features I've had that have been amazing. Now there's a couple hard asses, but there's a couple old ones that are just like, look, I'm going to be straight up with you. You'll never use any of this. I'm just going to teach you what actually matters and get it straight to the point, and you guys can go fuck off for the rest of the day.
I do remember that, yeah.
And
that
then
is
cut
true.
out the bullshit like the busy work, the unnecessary homework crap where you just go home and rinse and repeat the same 20 things that you just did the day in class. No, he's like, if you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. He's like, if you fail the test, I'll give you some extra work to help you out. It's extra credit. But if you don't need it, then you're not going to be required to do it. I've had a couple great teachers that have done that. Like, other teachers too. That like some teachers that I think is weird. Like, I don't understand why you have homework for history. That's a class I've never understood homework for.
Yeah, history, I kind of got to agree with you on that.
Like,
I feel like it should just be as simple as you go to class, you learn. Like, that's the point of it. It's story time.
Yes.
That is, it's literally called HIS, H-I-S,
yes.
story,
Yes.
S-T-O-R-Y. His story.
Kind of. There's an extra S in that.
Ignore that.
Depiction.
His story.
Yeah. Anyways, I was gonna say that's a class I never understood was why they're homework.
You should have tests. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
When you paying
But
attention.
the thing is that the homework is just reading the book.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why sometimes they give you like things to write out. And I'm like, okay, you're not learning a math equation where you have to like actually physically get it through your head. You're not learning like a language where you have to understand how it works and intricacies with other languages so you can actually communicate. You're just memorizing.
Yeah.
There is
And the thing
no
is,
thought
the
in history.
information. This is what pisses me off about history classes too. As far as like that whole failing, we're getting way off topic here, but
again. Yeah.
I do want to bring this up. The purpose of history is not to memorize the name,
Yep.
the date, the battlefield, the general leading that battle. That is all irrelevant bullshit. The point of history is to understand how this story played out, and most importantly, why it played out that way.
It's basically to learn the lesson.
It's to learn the lesson
And
of
not
others'
repeat
mistakes.
The same problem.
So when you sit there and you hear about Alexander the Great, who gives a shit what year the battle was fought? Who gives a shit what they called the battle? Who gives a shit what they did? Like, you should be learning, like, he was a great ruler. He got over ambitious. He got distracted maybe by lovers and stuff like that. And it ultimately led to his ruin because he let himself get distracted and didn't stay on the task. The purpose of the story is for you to understand that even when you have everything in place and everything in line, letting yourself lose focus could cause you to lose it all. That's the point. That's the why. That's the important part about it. Not the date of the battle, not when he was born, not what his greatest advisor's name was. Nobody cares about that. You want to learn the actual point of it. And to get back on point, with that being said, like, it's so funny to me because, like, again, it's another institution. We could spend an hour talking about its failings and its flaws because government ran institutions, and I'm not 100% sure always how to fix it, but I feel like at minimum, term limits on all government work would probably not be a bad thing, because the worst case scenario, you have at minimum somebody who's only there and is only going to be a problem for X amount of time. So like if you have a really shit DMV employee, they're only going to be there for a million times. Here's the other thing too, like, okay, DMV employees, government employees as a whole, everything with that entire system, okay? It shouldn't be a permanent job. It just shouldn't.
Well, it used to be, the whole point of a government employee was basically somebody who was kind of like I don't know how else to word it, but like, just like wanting to go above and beyond for their society. So like, for example,
Yeah,
you know,
a public servant.
like the most notable thing you know of is like when you were being in politics of some kind, you were basically like the guy that was voted on by all the rest of your neighbors saying like, hey, he's the one we want representing us. It was literally like you were kind of like put in the position because you were just the one that was either accepting of it or most fulfilled for it, or people wanted you for it. But it was never meant to be a job. Remember, that was the whole point of the founding fathers saying we should never have lifelong politicians.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the whole point of public servants, was that they were supposed to be people who were like going either above and beyond, like, so they worked a job and this was kind of like a secondary thing, and they were just doing it as like a kind of like a charity, like a soup kitchen. So think of like a cop was like a soup kitchen. So they would be like, okay, I work my regular job, I don't know, building a house, and then my secondary soup kitchen job is to be a public servant and help society out with like traffic and stuff. That was how it was originally, and then obviously they go. And now we have hardcore lifelong servants and whatever degree.
No, it shouldn't be a thing. It should. I have been advocating this for years, and I genuinely believe in it. I don't believe any government employment should be lifelong. I just don't. And because the thing is that here's the incentive. People are going to do the same thing that they do in corporate America. They're going to go into the job. They're going to do the bare minimum to not get fired. Keyword there. The bare minimum to not get fired. They're going to coast out that time, and the reward at the end of it is a stipend or a pension on top of their Social Security, and they're done.
Yeah,
they don't care if they do good. They don't care if they do harm. And what's even worse, and this really pisses me off, is that all government employees have some form of qualified immunity. Like, it's varying levels. There's like total immunity, qualified immunity. There's like things that are like within the scope of the job.
Behind the guys, it's kind of like piercing the corporate veil. Their corporate is government. You gotta pierce government to get to them, which is
I should be able to sue the government employee directly, because I'm sorry. The thing is that while I get it for police, the agency needs to have their back and stuff like that. I don't get it for the low-end DMV employee that literally somehow completely screwed it up and cost me my car. Like, they somehow transferred the car over to the wrong person. No, they should get their ass sued on top of the DMV. It should be both. But instead, you have to go through the DMV, which means you have to go through a civil rights attorney, and it's a whole disaster to sit there and do that. No, I should be able to go after the person directly. They're the ones that caused it. They're the ones that should be at fault for it. And here's the thing. You don't like it? Get out of the job. You're not meant to serve the public.
Stop doing this. We're back in the same exact routine. Okay, we're done with this topic. We're going to go back into this for another hour. Got it.
Fine.
Public servants need to serve the public. That's the
takeaway here.
Yeah.
If you're a public servant, your job is to serve the public. Nothing more, nothing less. You are beneath the public. You help the public.
Okay,
I'm done.
Done with this video. Otherwise, we're going to rant for another hour. All right, so
you don't want to do one on this?
No, this is a separate video. This is a one done. We're done with this. We're moving on. We got too much other work to do.
I'll have more constructive points on government in the next video.
He's gonna live stream it. He's just gonna.
I'm going live.
Yeah, I'm going live. He's gonna go live. He's just gonna rant for 9 hours straight. He'll just keep the VOD open at all times so everybody can look at it. Yeah, anyways. All right. Catch him at Twitch. Whatever.
No, we're done. It's 5:30. I want to go home. So honestly, again, appreciate you guys checking in for the bonus.
This is the bonus video.
This is the bonus video. This is the first one ever.
That's right. It is.
It is the first one.
Might not be the last one, but it's definitely the first one.
This is the bonus kind of rant video or whatnot. Who knows? We might do more. We might never do it again. Depends how pissed off we are.
I was gonna say, it's all about the feels, the vibe.
Yeah, this is less like actual. Yeah, I guess this is more of our personality versus like constructive business stuff. So whatever, it is what it is. Anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you guys watching it. We're out.
We'll see you guys later.
Peace.